the Devil is a new found footage-ish sort of horror movie starring David Dasmalchian. And in this movie, David Dasmalchian plays this late night talk show host named Jack Delroy. It's called Night Owls, and he's never been able to quite hit that big time ratings on these late night shows. This takes place in the year 1977, so he's constantly competing with Late Night with Johnny Carson. He can't quite hit it to that point, and so much so that he's now reached a point where his late night show is really on the brink of getting canceled. His career is on the brink of ending. Until on Halloween night, on this Halloween special of his, he decides what might save his career. He chooses to bring on a group of people who experiment in, psychic and readings and skepticism and ultimately demon possession, and most importantly, brings on this little girl who's allegedly possessed by a demon to see what they can bring out of her for the sake of his show. And yeah, you hear demon-possessed girl on a late-night show. Well, what could go wrong? I had absolutely no freaking clue what this movie was. I had never heard of it. I had never known of it. I only found out about it through very, very faint word of mouth. It's not even like a movie that constant people were talking about necessarily. But I heard from a few people whose opinions I trust that it was a really good watch, and I was like, you know what? Why not? And I gotta tell you, what we got here is another very unique and original horror movie, unlike any I have seen before. First of all, getting right into it, the star of the movie, David Dasmalchian as Jack Delroy. He's awesome in this movie. I feel like we have typically seen this guy in smaller roles, in cameos, playing a bunch of different characters, maybe with like a weird side to them. I mean, he has that cameo briefly in The Dark Knight where he plays one of those schizophrenic freaks who works for the Joker, has like one line in the whole movie. I think he was also the Polka Dot Man in the Suicide Squad. I may be wrong on that, but I'm 90% sure that was him. But now here he is in this lead role, and he plays a character that is very different from the ones he's typically played before. But he's really good here because you see a guy here who is fighting to keep his dream alive. He loves being a talk show host. He wants the audience to love him. He wants to get people to tune into his show, and he understands he's at a point right now, he's going to do something spectacular and unforgettable in order for people to come back to his show, or even come to his show in general. And you also see in him a guy who's kind of willing to go the distance in doing some things that are a little more sketchy, or a little more maybe seen as, something that should be taken with a little more hesitance. Especially in a scenario where it's like, hey, we're bringing this demon-possessed girl onto the show that you're going to interview. Things could go wrong here. He's like, no, but it's going to be great for TV. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have everything under control. It's like kind of situation. Like you quickly see what people are willing to put at stake for the price of fame. Like they're willing to sacrifice others, their own morality, their soul even. It's like, how much is something really worth to someone? David Dasmalchian in this movie is constantly going to the edge with that question in this movie. Also, I really love the format which this movie is portrayed in. I mean, it takes place in the year 1977, so when you watch the actual, what's supposed to be the taping or the airing of the show itself, everything is in color, but it's in a very smaller frame rate. And then when they cut to commercial, or what's supposed to be a commercial, and then you go into the whole behind the scenes situation, what was happening as they were just waiting for, to get back on the air and everything. At that point, it's a wider frame rate, but it's also in black and white because it's in 1977. Maybe not the fact that it's in 1977, but it's like old archive footage, if you will. But either way, it completely fit and it worked. It makes you feel more like you are there. It makes you feel like more like you are in 1977, or you are observing something that came from that time. Also, what I really appreciated in this movie was the supporting cast, namely the guests that Jack Delroy brings onto a show like this. Because it constantly plays with the whole medium sort of entertainment that goes on. He brings on this one guy. He's supposed to be this psychic. He communicates with spirits, everything like that. He looks into the audience. He does the whole I'm getting a name. Is it a Tom? Is it a Tim? I'm saying something with a T. Someone in the audience says a name. He's like, that's the name. That's it right there. And, you hear situations like that, and you see that go down, and you're like, okay, I mean, anyone could have gotten that. But then he might go talk to another group of people, and he might be like, do you have a family member? This family member passed on recently. Maybe it was this way. It happened like this. This person really loved this. well, I want you to know that person is at peace. And you're kind of like, whoa, he was actually dead on. It's like, okay, is it real? Did he actually talk to a spirit? What I also love, though, is they also bring on another guest onto the show, and this guy is one of those skeptics, you know? He's someone who just does not believe in any of this shit. Doesn't believe in magic, doesn't believe in psychic readings, doesn't believe in demon or spirit possession whatsoever. And not just in that sense, but he constantly debunks all these situations. It's like, okay, that's not true, and this is why. Like, that could never happen. That's bullshit, and this is why. It made for a really interesting dynamic between the guests, between Jack Delroy as he hosts the show. And what I really appreciate right there is, you know, it's not like immediately right out the gate, the demon girl comes onto the show and they just get right into this little exorcism or whatever it could be. But it didn't matter. Because I will say, that whole situation with, you know, the demon-possessed girl, nothing really goes down until I want to say halfway into the movie, maybe even the final third of the movie. But it didn't matter, because you're appreciating the concept of the show, you're appreciating these supporting characters and what they're bringing to the show. At no point in this movie was I bored, at no point in this movie was I just sitting back like, okay, can you bring the girl on and we can see shit hit the fan? No, I was really entertained by all the guests on the show, by the concept of the movie, and I think that's what's really impressive. And I will say as much, when they bring that little demon girl on, I gotta say, I don't know what this actress's name is. One second. Ingrid Torelli, I guess that's her name. She's great in this movie. Because what I really liked with her performance is, right out the gate, even before the demon totally takes possession of her, you could tell something's a little off with her. Like, she's just sitting in the chair, she's like listening to Jack ask questions or interview the other guests or anything like that, and she never like totally seems like she's completely into it. Like, you know, at one point, like, you know, Jack could be over here asking her a question and she's still staring directly into the camera. She's not even looking at him. She has to be, like, guided to look at him. Or, you know, a situation could be going on that seemed weird, that seemed creepy or something like that. She's just sitting there like this, just completely chilled while everyone else is, you know, a little on edge. But I can tell you, it's when she sits down with the woman who's been kind of guiding her and learning about what's happening to her. It's when she sits down with her and they undergo the official exorcism or whatever you want to call it. That is when shit really hits the fan. And, you know, she undergoes those little contortion things, and she speaks with the demon voice, she says some really fucked up shit, and that's where the movie really hits the creep level for me. Because you know at this point, like, they've officially opened Pandora's box, and you're not going to be able to shut it. And it leads to an awesome final act that is creepy, that's intense, that kind of leaves you guessing, leaves you theorizing in the end, like what certain things meant with certain characters. And it hits you with an ending that frankly has you walking out like, you know, the movie marketed itself as like the most talked about television event ever. Yeah, had that been real, had that been seen, I would believe it. It's like, again, you look at it, it's like, yeah, you're gonna be famous now, but at what price? But I really think the big thing I need to get at with this movie that I really, really appreciated from it, and this is what I'm learning more about myself when it comes to horror movies, when it comes to these supposed scary movies, it's not so much the scare factor for me that really determines how impressive or how good a horror movie is, because I'm admittedly a very easy scare. And even still, it's very easy to just use some disturbing imagery or some jump scare to really, like, you know, get you jolted or something like that. But for me, what I am learning with horror movies that's going to make me really appreciate it is I want uniqueness and I want originality with horror. I mean, initially you walk into this movie, it's like, okay, it's another demon possession movie. We've seen that a billion times over. What the hell is this going to do that's different? This movie offered so much that was different. I can't remember a horror movie that was quite like this. I mean, a movie about a talk show host, they bring on a demon-possessed girl, and a bunch of creepy, you know, paranormal shit goes down. I've never seen anything like that before. Now, granted, I'm not super familiar with a lot of horror movies, but I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like this. And I was able to walk out of this movie being like, that was one of the most unique horror movie experiences I can remember. So all in all, Late Night with the Devil, I really dug the shit out of this one. David Dasmalchian crushes it in the lead role. I loved his character of Jack Delroy, seeing how far he's willing to go to keep his show alive, to keep himself famous. The supporting cast I thought did a great job. The demon-possessed girl, she brought uneasiness when she needed to. She was creepy as fuck when she needed to be. The movie felt so much like a 1977 late night talk show with, you know, the color scheme, the frame rate, the behind the scenes look. It took on the demon possessed premise, which we've seen so many times, and it made something unique and original out of it which I appreciate more than anything. In the end, I am very happy this is not a movie I let slide under my radar, because I feel like this is a movie that I'm definitely going to remember throughout the year. That's for sure. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video, and as always, don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe. I will see you all next time.